Hey, ground school members. So a great pre-flight starts with using the checklist and starts inside the airplane. Let's go ahead and take a look inside. So I like to start, obviously you have to start with the checklist. First thing on our checklist, documents. So let's go in our glove box, let's find and work through those documents together. The acronym we use is ARROW. ARROW. The first A in there is our airworthiness certificate, which you can see there. Yes, this is for 7159 Quebec, a 172 Lima model. You can check the serial number and everything that way. The next R is for our registration. Who is this aircraft registered to? We need to have our registration on board. The next R is our aircraft radio license that you can see here. This is for international flights only, so if you don't have this, it's no big deal. But if you want to go to the Bahamas or Canada or Mexico or anything like that, you need to have your radio certificate. O is for our owner's manual. This is the one that came from the factory in 1972. We need to make sure we have that as well. It's not a POH, it's an owner's manual. It's a different thing. And then lastly is our weight and balance. Last time this aircraft had anything done to it, we need to have an updated weight and balance that came from when it was painted, when avionics were added, whatever it may be, a new weight and balance. Documents are check, everything is good, so before we lose those or anything like that, we can put those back then in the glove box so we know where they're at all times. Next thing, number 2 says master switch on. I'm going to come down over here and I'm going to turn the master switch on. Flaps down. I'm going to bring the flaps on down, and you can watch the flaps come on down. I always like to look back, make sure they're coming down evenly and everything else is looking good as the flaps come down. And then lastly, it's telling us lights check. I want to turn all my lights on, landing, beacon, strobe, nav, and I even turned pitot heat on just to simply check that. Turn those on, and let's walk around outside and make sure all of the lights are working. I'll meet you up here at the nose. Starting with our landing light here. Landing light's working, everything's looking good that way. Continuing over here to our right wing. What color would this navigation light be over here? It's your pop quiz? Guess green, you're correct. Green, it's illuminated, strobe's working just fine. Working around to the back side of our plane. VFR day, the only light that legally needs to be working, oddly enough, is our beacon, which is working fine. We also have a rear tail position light, which is illuminated, as you can see there. Coming over to now our left wing. If that wing was green, what color will this navigation light be? Pop quiz, if you guessed red, you're spot on. Red light works, strobe light works, all lights work. Lastly, again, I like to check pitot heat just to make sure, yes, it is, it's really working. So we can check that as well. Let's save the battery. Let's go back in there, turn that master switch off, then we'll continue. I'll meet you back over on that side in just a second. And I'm going to go master switch off, also turn pitot heat off, so when I turn the master on, that's not on. So like I said, master switch off, then it's over to the left wing. So if you want to hang out there, I'm going to get what I need, and I'll meet you over there because it says left wing flap, and that's where I'm heading. So I'm going to come over your way so you can see that. Typically, obviously, you wouldn't fly in the right seat, so you'd come out of your left seat, and we're going to make this big flow all the way around the airplane. So it says flap check. That's all it really says. What are we looking for? What does a flap do for us? A flap works to slow the airplane down, yet still give us great aerodynamic principles and help us increase in the lift department a little bit as well. It's like when you're a kid and you'd hang your hand out the window. So when I'm checking for the flap, I want a little bit of freedom of movement. Watch this. A little bit of freedom of movement. It shouldn't be moving crazy, but an inch or two is okay. Now let's look up underneath the flap because this is where it gets interesting. Underneath the flap, I want to look at my flap rollers. I have 2 rollers, one here, one behind my head here. They should be free of any divots or anything like that. They could have some grease and stuff in here, that's fine, but I'm making sure there's no divots so my flaps can roll evenly, and there's also one up top. Now, when I check my flap connecting rod, listen with me here, it's going to sound silly, but it should literally sound like this. Has a little bit of play to it. That's A-okay. We want a little bit of play. Now, if you come out here and this thing is stiff, we've got a problem, all right? So flap checked, everything looks great. Next thing on that checklist, the big A word, which is aileron. We're coming back to our aileron. This was what does our rolling motion around the airplane. I'm checking full up, full down. I'm also, can you see? If you look all the way down the airplane, I put this aileron down, that one goes up. This aileron up, that one goes down. So we should be moving opposite one another. Now up underneath this aileron, it's very important to check. We also have another connecting rod right here that needs to be checked. Same kind of thing. Now this is super important. Let's see if we can capture this. You need to always be holding this aileron up, because if your fingers are in here and someone bumps the aileron or a little bit of wind comes in and my fingers are in there and that comes down, it's going to hurt real bad. So we need to always make sure to hold the aileron up with one hand and check it with the other. Now down the aileron a little bit further, you'll notice we have 3 counterweights. This is specific to a Cessna aircraft. Your Cherokee 140 may not have this, so you need to note what you have. But 1, 2, 3 counterweights we have in this aircraft. So we want to be able to check that. Next thing we're checking here is we're coming down. We've got the flap, the aileron, lights are next on this list. Lights, we already checked to make sure they illuminate and they work, but this is just 1, 2, 3 screws holding this housing on here. Give them a good little tug, make sure everything else is on there looking good. Continuing down the leading edge, you can see we're making this pattern around the airplane here. Down the leading edge to next thing is our fuel vent. Just like on your red gas caps that have that little yellow cap to ventilate the fuel, we have the same thing here. We have a fuel vent that's protected a little bit by the strut. We want to peek in there, make sure no bugs made a home or anything like that. Next thing is our stall horn. Now there's 2 types of stall warning horns. There's the tab, and then there's this stall warning horn that works on suction here. Now, so what would happen is if you wanted to test this, you would literally have to suck air out. It's not air going in, it's suction, because as we approach a stall and we increase that angle of attack, air is literally sucked off the leading edge, and that's what causes our stall warning horn to work. They make the little testers where you can run that test if you want to, or with the tab, you can just flicker the tab with the master switch on, and you can test it that way. In our case, you just want to look and make sure it's clear of any bugs or obstructions. Next thing is our pitot tube. We made sure the pitot heat works. Remember, our pitot tube is our airspeed. It's very primitive technology. Air comes in here, blows through, tells us an airspeed. So I want to peek and make sure no bugs made a home at the front of this pitot tube. Up underneath there's a drain hole so water can go in and back out. I want to peek at the drain hole. It's real small, just right here, to make sure everything is good in that department so water can go through. No bugs made a home in there. Everything is looking set with that. Pitot tube checked. Next is our air vent. Again, top-notch technology. Air comes in here, it blows on you. That's literally how the air vent works. As silly as that sounds, make sure no bugs have made a home in there. I was once out in Sedona, Arizona. Some yellow jackets made a nest in there. I ignored checking my air vents. I just kind of went, oh yeah, good. I didn't stick my finger in there and check. It wasn't until I was ready to take off and blast all that air down in there, and the yellow jackets shot into the cockpit as I was getting ready to make a takeoff off a plateau in Sedona, Arizona. You can imagine how that turned out. Air vent check. Down here now to the tire. Now there's some specific things we're looking for with our tire. I want to make sure there's no bald spots, no cord showing. If my tire was getting low, it would literally pooch out a little bit right here. Air pressure looks good. You could go as far as to actually check the tire pressure, which is something we do. You could do that as well. I'm looking too at my brakes. Is there any brake fluid down here? Brake fluid would be what the FAA calls salmon color. You and I would call it pink. But is there any brake fluid down here that the airplane's been sitting that I need to actually watch for? So we're looking for that. Any brake fluid or anything along those lines. Now, next, heading straight up from the tire is our fuel sump, which is right up here. I've got my gas jar, is what it's called, and I'm going to sump my fuel. You can see as it fills up, of course, aviation fuel is blue. You can start to see that it's blue. I'm looking for any junk, any water, dirt, and I want to make sure it's not jet fuel. Jet fuel is actually clear. So what I'll do is I'll hold this up to something white. Perhaps I could hold it up against the airplane to confirm, yes, that is blue. A lot of people will just take this and hold it up to the sky, and of course it looks blue. Remember, jet fuel is clear. So you want to make sure, yes, this is blue, yes, there's no water in it, everything is clear, this is a good sample. It's safe to pour back through the filter, if you have a GATS jar, into the airplane. Because our next thing is a fuel cap. So I'm going to go up on top of the airplane, and I'm going to go ahead and check our fuel cap and put this back in there. So up top, fuel cap, place it somewhere safe, assuming it's not chained. I'm going to pour that back in since it's good fuel, it's a good sample. Set my gas jar here, and I also use a fuel stick because I don't trust fuel gauges, okay? I want to visually be able to check. So I pull this up and I show I have 15 gallons per side. I'll let that go. I'll visually check and confirm. That's all good. Fuel cap comes back on. Fuel caps, 99% of the time, are set to be aerodynamic, so we're checking that as well. I'm remembering my gas jar, remembering my fuel stick, remembering my checklist, and I'm heading back down, and we're going to the nose now. So here on the nose, I have my static port. Static port, altimeter, vertical speed indicator, part of the pitot-static system, a tiny little hole that does a lot. It's this hole that tells me my altitude. It sounds mind-boggling, but I want to make sure no bugs, and that is free of obstructions. Next is my windshield. Not only is my windshield there, but is it cracked? Is it crazing? Or how about is it dirty? Any bugs or anything like that? We want to work to clean that windshield. Next is our engine door. We're lucky enough to have an engine door on this airplane. I like to kind of just stick my head in here and say, okay, is everything looking good? Is everything fastened? Is there any more oil than there was the last time? A lot of these engines do leak. I just want to be mindful of that and learn as much as I can by having this great tool. A lot of aircraft, you don't have this luxury to be able to look inside. But when it's done, I want to make sure I close it, and it's latched. It's latched. I want to try to pry it open. I can't. Engine door is secure. Coming down now to the prop. Prop is so important when we check it. First off, we know we have to respect the propeller, but I need to check the prop, and I'm looking for any nicks. A good rule of thumb is if I can get a fingernail caught in it, it might be something to address and something to talk about with your instructor. Checking both the leading and trailing edge of that prop, looking for any little nicks, anything like that. So checking the propeller. Propeller is good. Next, the alternator belt. Alternator belt is right here. Again, respecting the propeller. I do have to go within the propeller arc, but I want to check the alternator belt, which is right here, and just give it a little tug. Unfortunately, this plane, I can only see about 20% of the alternator belt, so I just want to give it a tug, and kind of assess it and check everything out. Alternator belt looks good. Air filter now. Coming down here, my air filter. We've been doing a lot of soft feel landing on the grass lately here. So you can see the air filter's got a little bit of dirt in it. I could go in there and clean some of that out because I want to make sure I'm getting the proper air flow through there. While we're down here, there's the landing light. Again, we know it illuminates, but it's just 1, 2, 3 screws that hold this housing on there. I want to double check and make sure that landing light is all sound. Next thing, we're going over to the oil. Check with our oil door. A lot of aircraft, this is all they have is an oil door. I'm going to set everything down here so we can then go and check the oil. And in our aircraft, it's 6 quarts. It's going to be different for every airplane. We're going to bring that engine oil out and take a look at it here. Right at 6. Look at the color of it too. Nice and golden. We don't want brown. We don't want nasty. Nice, golden. Everything looks good on the oil. A lot of times we can wipe it clean, put it back in and get another reading as well. So oil is good in that case. Finger tighten only. This thing has a seal on it that if you try and put it on like the Hulk, that engine vibration will keep it on there even tighter. So put it on just enough to really keep it there. I'm going to leave this open and I'll tell you why here in just a second. Nose wheel, check. Nose wheel right down here. Again, what am I looking for? No bald spots, no cord showing, plenty of tire pressure. Something else I look for is on the strut. I want about 3 fingers showing on this oleo strut here. So that's looking good. If not, the plane literally needs a little bit of a chiropractic adjustment or a nitrogen kind of boost there. But this is borderline good. It's acceptable with that. I might give it a little bit of an adjustment, but that one looks good. Now, after that, we have our fuel sump for the nose. Now this is interesting, in my airplane at least, I don't have a belly drain, like a nice port to do it. The pull is up with the oil and the straw is down here. So it makes it kind of difficult Luckily, being 6'4" and almost 6'5" is easy to reach up by the oil to pull and fill up the fuel that way. Now, if you're short, it's a little bit of a problem. Again, same thing. Looking nice and blue, no water, no junk. This is a good sample that we can work with, and I can sump my next one right on into that. But let's keep moving forward here onto the right wing. So remember to shut our oil door. All stuff we've done before. Air vent. So your instructor's air vent. They're going to really appreciate it if you check it, make sure there's no bugs in there. At least what I tell my students. Air vent is checked. Working down the leading edge all the way to lights is our next thing. Coming down and over to our lights. Over to here, again, 3 screws, 1, 2, 3, making sure they're on, nice and secure. Everything's looking good with our lights. That's checked. Next thing, aileron followed by flaps. Again, we've done this all before. Freedom of movement on the ailerons. This one's going up, that one's going down. This one down, that one up. Coming up underneath, 3 counterweights. Hold it up with this hand, 1, 2, 3. Connecting rods, still hold up the aileron with the other hand. That's the sound I like to hear right there. Good. Aileron, check. Down to my flap, a little bit of movement. Great. Up underneath my flap, checking both rollers. Roller 1, great. Roller 2 behind me, great. Connecting rod. Beautiful. Flap and ailerons, check. Tire on this side, same thing. Not bald, no cord showing, not pooching out too much down here, no brake fluid, tire, check, looks good. Next thing, fuel sump on the co-pilot side. I'm gonna sump right into this because it's good fuel, makes no sense to waste it. And sump right on into it. And if you do see any dirt or junk, you're pouring back through that filter anyways. Again, hold it to something white, nice and blue. Everything looks great. Actually, do have a little bit of a dirt flake in there. Again, I'll pour it through the filter, I'll catch it and clean it out that way. So that's great. All right, and now we're going back up on top of the wing, and I'm gonna pour this fuel back in and check to confirm the fuel on this side. Cap off, cap somewhere safe, pouring the fuel back in through the filter. Caught that little dirt piece there that I'll get rid of. Fuel stick. I have 15 on that side. I have 15 on this side. Visually check inside. Looks great. Cap, secure, aerodynamic. Taking everything I brought up with me down and coming back down. All right. Right wing complete. Now heading back to the tail, guys, and we're wrapping this thing up. ELT antenna right here. Emergency Locator Transmitter. It's an EPIRB, essentially. It's activated on impact or when it experiences being submerged in water. This is going to save you one day if someone needs to come find you. ELT antenna. Check that it's there and it's on secure. So now on to the elevator. Let me put my stuff down so I can show you guys this. Elevator, again, this is all just hollow sheet metal. It's aluminum, essentially. I don't want to grab it here and literally put my fingers through it. In a composite aircraft, it's the same. Grab it down here where it's thickest. I'm looking for freedom of movement. Should be nice and fluid. Shouldn't be like herky-jerky. Nice, fluid movement on my elevator is what I'm looking for. I have cotter pins down in here I'm checking for. I'm inspecting. Everything looks good. Pins are in. Elevator check is great. 3 things left, guys. Rudder. Right here, again, this is all just hollow. Grab the rudder down here where it's thickest. I'm checking for freedom of movement on my rudder. I'm looking down at the rudder cables that go through the fuselage, make sure they're not rubbing or chafing. They're steel braided cables, but I still want to keep an eye on them. So all that's good. VOR antenna. How do I know this is a VOR antenna? Well, if you step back this way, how I'm looking at it, you can see it makes a V. That is my VOR antenna. Most people couldn't be able to get up there and reach it. It's up so high, but literally it's a visual inspection. I just want to look up there and make sure it's good. Last thing on this checklist is our baggage door. Coming over to our baggage door here, you could just verify that it's locked. If it's open, like we leave ours open a lot, make sure it's slam shut and purposefully try to pry it open to see if you can. And if not, baggage door is confirmed. And just like that, we've completed our pre-flight inspection. It'll come to you faster and faster each time you do it. But the thing is to avoid complacency with it. Always checklist in hand, always line by line confirming that yes, we did everything on that pre-flight inspection checklist. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Any questions on your pre-flight, don't hesitate to reach out and we'll see you in the next video. See ya.